So here we have a 2020 Honda Africa Twin, one of the greatest adventure bikes ever built. Today we're going to talk you through everything we did to this bike, why we picked this bike, and how we did it. Hey everyone, I'm Wesley Hannum. I'm the founder of Moto Safari. For the past 10 years, we've been taking people around the globe on bespoke and unforgettable motorcycle adventures. Today we're going to show you how all of this knowledge culminates to build a capable motorcycle. So we're going to start really simple, just looking at the front end. We went with a less traditional style of a short screen. Normally you'll have much taller screens, but we prefer to be able to see on this bike when I'm riding. I want to see where I'm going. So this is actually just the OEM Honda screen we cut off and painted it black on the inside to give it a really cool look and give you nice peripheral field of vision. Over here we have the Outrider high fender kit. Again, this is just something personal preference. I like the style of the high fender. I like the ability to clear mud, which the low fender doesn't do. So that's why I went with this option. For the suspension on this bike, the 2020 and up Africa Twins generally come with good suspension. However, if you're doing aggressive riding and depending on your rider weight, personally, I decided to go with the K-Tech piston kit and also stiffer springs. Just gives the front end a much more responsive feel, especially riding off-road. Gives you much more adjustability on your compression, rebound, overall damping feel is much better. The sensitivity is increased on the clickers and the overall stiffness of the front end really improves the riding and the handling of this motorcycle. Honda is one of the most reliable motorcycles out there. Another big reason why I decided to go with this bike. Personally, I own a GS 1200 too. Love that bike, but just for the style of riding, especially more off-road oriented riding, the 21-inch front wheel, the great linear power delivery of this motor really ties this package together perfectly and gives you that perfect combination of on-road and off-road capability. In terms of what we did with this bike, the motor is stock. However, we did do a full ECU flash, throttle-by-wire tuning, and full O2 sensor delete. We have Sprint air filters, and this is a Black Widow exhaust. This is a UK-based company. Great exhaust, not too expensive. And we have the full headers tucked in here, right behind the beautiful Outback Motortech skid plate. The engine on this motorcycle is mostly stock. We went with it purely to have the perfect capability of on and off-road. The 21-inch front tire is really a game changer off-road. However, this motorcycle still gives you lots of comfort for the highway miles. The ECU, what we did is we removed the O2 sensors, we removed the catalytic converter, and we mapped it, the throttle-by-wire mapping, to run with the aftermarket exhaust. This is a Black Widow exhaust, great quality, great performance. So for the tires on this bike, we went with quite an aggressive front tire. This is the Golden Tire Fatty. Comes in a few different variations, cheetah compounds, also Shinko has a very similar tire, but I like the way this tire hooks up. And on the rear, we went with Mitas. I generally go with a slightly harder compound in the rear. The Mitas Dakar is a good in-between. This bike puts down a lot of power, so it chews through tires pretty quickly. So the compound is usually, I try not to go too soft compound in the rear. If we look at some of the finer details here on the bike, sort of the subframe is now black. OEM, it comes in red, so I thought that was a nice touch to have this blacked out. We also have AS3 Performance rear brake lever, Zeta foot pegs, just for extra stability. These have great grip. We also deleted the passenger pegs. The 2020 and up Africa Twin comes with good suspension out of the box, but again, it depends on your riding style. Personally, I have a bit more of aggressive riding style and I found the rear was a bit wallowy. So in the rear end, we actually went with the K-Tech 19 Newton meter spring. And this spring is actually 10 millimeter longer than the stock spring, just to remove some of that sag in the rear. And then we also had the rear shock rebuilt and revalved. This really livens up the bike. Makes it a bit stiffer. Again, it's a preference thing. As you can see in this configuration, we're not running a lot of luggage or weight on the bike. Quite the opposite, we've removed a lot of stuff. But again, the additional stiffness in the suspension really livens up the handling, especially off-road. With the Africa Twin, for those of you that are not aware, Outback, Mototech really are the leaders in the industry. Huge shout out to Laurie for sending me these beautiful crash bars. I have tested these, and I know Laurie and his team have done extensive testing on these too. They fit perfectly, they look cool, and the quality and workmanship on these crash bars is second to none. So what I really liked about the Outback Mototech skid plate is that it actually worked perfectly with the aftermarket headers that we have here. Normally, the aftermarket skid plate won't give you the necessary clearance to clear the headers. But luckily for us, the Outback Mototech one clears our headers perfectly. For someone like me that cares a lot about aesthetics and of course functionality, form versus function, I really like the Outback Mototech crash bars because they are tried and tested. They fit the bike really well, they match the lines, and they don't make the bike look bulky or odd with the crash bars in place. A nice little detail we did on this build is we added these black Honda badges, which really ties the whole build together. So one of the main reasons I went with the Black Widow exhaust, obviously there's a ton of options on the market, but the Black Widow, I really like the lines of the header. Also, the way the lines of the exhaust sort of match the lines of the subframe. Again, this is something that's very important aesthetically. I also like this fact that it's got a sort of rally style can. Another really positive thing is it has a removable baffle, so it doesn't get too loud or too drony. And that's really important, especially on a bike like this, when you're covering a lot of miles. You don't want to have a super loud exhaust, you want the option to quieten it down. So just as it is, it has a really nice rumble, especially if you get on the gas. And if you really want to liven it up, you can pull the baffle out and then it gets quite a bit louder. So on the rear end of the motorcycle, we just went with the EvoTech tail tidy. I really like the way this kit looks. It kind of cleans up the rear end, retains the rear indicators, and all puts it in a nice tidy package. The EvoTech stuff is only really high quality. That's why I like using it, and I like the way it looks. So for the cockpit of this bike, again, following the overall theme, less is more. So generally in the adventure space, you'll see there's always a lot of stuff being added on. But me personally, I really wanted to liven up this bike, remove all the unnecessary frills. And the same goes here for the cockpit. If you look at the cockpit, there's not even a quad lock mount, there's no phone mount. What I do is I keep my phone here in this Thrill Seekers pouch. Shout out Austin. And I run all my navigation through the Apple CarPlay. Right now you'll see we have Gaia open. This is perfect navigation. It's all you need. It's a large legible screen. You can change the settings on the fly while you're riding. You can navigate through your apps. So this is what I use all in all. As a full navigation package, I use Gaia. If you look at the rest of the cockpit, I changed out the bars for the rental fat bars. Again, the Thrill Seekers bar pad. For the levers on this bike, I went with the ASV levers. I really like the quality. Manufactured in California. Bar ends, Sato Racing bar ends. Really, in terms of drop protection, if you drop the bike, the levers just fold. These take most of the brunt. I'm still looking for a custom solution for a wraparound bar end. Looking for something to clear the hood of these levers, but I'll probably end up custom fabricating something. Front indicators, as you can see, have been deleted completely. Just they break off too many times. So really what you have here is a really clean, effective cockpit. One of the most important modifications I did to this bike is I installed what's called the LSK dongle. I think they're based somewhere out of Eastern Europe. But what it does essentially is, if you're running the bike in stock configuration without this dongle, each time you're turning the traction control and the wheelie control off, you have to navigate through the menu. It's an extremely laborious process. You have to go through each individual section, turn on the traction control, turn on the wheelie control. What this dongle does effectively plugs into your wiring harness over here, and literally at the press of a button, which is your star or your favorites button here on your left-hand control, you can fully turn off traction control and wheelie control with the touch of one button. You press it, everything's on again. Really great product, highly recommended. Another really cool feature, as most of you know, on the 2020 Plus Africa Twins is Apple CarPlay. And what I did is I simply got a quad lock wireless CarPlay dongle, which plugs in here, and then I hid that in a waterproof casing under the plastics here. So basically what that means, you get on the bike, you turn on the key, your phone automatically connects. There's no wires, no cables, completely clean dash. If I want to charge my phone, again, I have an outlet here. I put my phone in my thrill seeker's bag and it charges here while I'm riding. Anything I need to do related to my phone happens through the screen here. Personally, I don't like having my phone on the bars while I'm riding. Damages the camera, the phone falls off. So I love having my phone in this bag, having it safe, and being able to navigate and do anything I need to, listen to music, all through the Apple CarPlay.